The Arab-Israeli conflict, or Israeli-Palestine conflict, is commonly thought to have started with the Arab-Israeli War in 1948. It is mainly about the Muslims and Jews' struggle to control the Holy Land. It actually began in 135 CE when the Roman Empire defeated the Third Revolt of Jews and expelled them from Jerusalem and renamed it Palestine. After that, it was captured by Arabs in the 7th century and then captured by Crusaders. But it was recaptured by Arabs and remained under their rule until it became a part of the Ottoman Empire in 1516. In the late 19th century, Theodor Herzl proposed that there should be a new state for the Jews. Since the Jews were treated as outcasts in much of the world and countries were trying to get rid of them, this was a welcomed idea. The idea of a Jewish nation became known as Zionism. In 1917, the British Empire made the proposal to the newly formed League of Nations to carve off a section of Palestine to become the new Jewish state. While this enraged Palestinian people in neighboring countries, Jewish people were hopeful that the new mandate would become a reality. Soon, a civil war between the Arabs and Jews erupted, which became the Great Revolt of 1936. Ultimately, this led to the British military to forcefully limit Jewish immigration to Palestine. By this time, World War II had engulfed all of Europe. Jews were trapped in Nazi Germany and other countries under siege, but no one was letting them into Israel. Zions organized illegal immigration, while a Jewish organization called the Irgun committed assaults on British institutions in Palestine as retaliation. Although pressured by the USA, Britain refused to allow any Jews inside Britain. If any were caught, they were detained at Cyprus. This continued even after World War II, the reason being that the demands and violence by the Arabs and Zionists made the situation untenable. With tensions rising between Jews and Arabs, Britain returned the mandate to the UN, who proposed a partition plan for Palestine. The plan was soon clear not to work due to the antagonizations of the Jews and Arabs. After the proposal was adopted by the UN in 1947, the Palestinians got violent and began attacking Jewish convoys and communities in Palestine. In retaliation, the Zionists attacked several Palestinian villages. The Arabs had clearly stated their desire to prevent the birth of a Jewish nation in any way possible. On May 14, 1948, after nearly 2,000 years of exile, the Jewish people had a state of their own, and it contained many of the sites of their holy historical past. But even as they celebrated, Israel's fate hung in the balance. The day after the President of Israel declared himself a state, the armies of Egypt, Jordan, Iraq, Lebanon, and Syria invaded. At first, the Arabs were winning. They captured some Israeli land, but soon the Israelis fought back. While the Arabs had more troops and better weaponry, the Israeli had better organization, more intel, and motivation. They eventually won the fight, and the Israeli Defense Force had saved the day. After the armistice, the Israeli controlled 78% of the area between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea. But then Israel was divided, with a tiny Jewish enclave ruling the east side of the Jordan River. This area, called Jordan, was restricted to Jews. This was religiously troubling because Jordan now had Jerusalem after it annexed part of the west bank of the Jordan River, which was a site of pilgrimage for the Jews. The Arab countries refused to believe the existence of Israel and therefore would not permanently house the refugees because they believed they already had a home in Israel and therefore had a right to return. But if Israel allowed this, it would lead to an Arab majority in Israel, and therefore it would no longer be Israel, just an Arab country with Jewish residents. This is one of the major conflicts to solving the Arab-Israeli conflict. Anyways, the Arabs, still refusing to accept the existence of Israel, instigated a boycott while threatening a war as well. To fight against the Israeli, the Arabs organized terrorist attacks in Israel. This led to the Fatah in Syria during 1959 and the PLO in Egypt during 1964. Not only that, but Egypt closed the Straits of Tiran for Israeli shipping. After that, they sent home the UN peacekeeping force in Sinai and issued bellicose statements to Israel, stating that it was ready to fight them. On June 1967, you can pretty much guess what happened. Israel attacked and started the Six-Day War, in which the Israeli captured the Gaza Strip, Sinai Desert, Golan Heights, and the west and east bank of the Jordan River. Part of this was made possible by the U.S. supplying munitions to the Israelis. Israel stated that they were willing to give back these newly captured lands in exchange for peace, but the Arabs refused and restated their objective to destroy the Jewish state. The tug of war soon developed as the Palestinian resistance group began to shift their ideas from terrorist attacks to liberating the West Bank and Gaza Strip. In 1980, West Jerusalem united with East Jerusalem and proclaimed the indivisibility of their capital. The problem was that both Israel and the Palestinians had claimed Jerusalem for their capital. The division of Jerusalem with its holy places is the second large obstacle to peace. But let's move on to the struggle for a Palestinian nation. We'll start with the PLO getting an observer status in the UN, which led to several new UN institutions for supporting the Palestinians. In 1975, Zionism was declared a form of racism, but it was revoked in 1991. Nevertheless, the UN lost the last ounce of peacemaking credibility in the eyes of Israel. Fortunately, in 1979, under Likud Prime Minister Menachem Begin, Israel and Egypt signed a peace treaty in exchange for the Sinai Desert, but Israel did not wish to negotiate with the PLO and vice versa. But after an uprising in occupied areas by the PLO, Israel eventually agreed to give the Palestinians land. After an election, the Palestinians were given the Gaza Strip and 40% of the West Bank. The peacemaking process slowed at Camp David, in which both sides accused their opposition of swindling them. This led to many suicide bombings and the failure of Camp David. In December 2000, after the disaster at Camp David, Bill Clinton proposed some parameters called the Bridging Proposals. They gave the Palestinian state the Gaza Strip, 97% of the West Bank, and a division of Jerusalem. Israel accepted, but the Palestinian side gave no clear answer. Despite further negotiations at Taba 2001, a decision was still not reached. Soon, Sharon won the Israel election and George W. Bush won the U.S. election in 2001. If these events seem familiar, you haven't been living in a cave for 20 years straight, you will know what the next clip is about. Following al-Qaeda's attack on the World Trade Center, Bush gave Sharon permission to strike back against them. After suicide attacks had killed hundreds, Israel occupied Palestine and set up military checkpoints, which severely limited the free movements of Palestinians. Then they built a wall between Israel and the occupied areas. This severely dropped the number of suicide attacks, but caused millions of Palestinians in Israel to lose their jobs and increased the poverty rate in the territories. President Bush proposed a roadmap schedule to break the Israeli-Palestinian violence, but no major peace negotiations have taken place since then. Further actions were dropped when Hamas won the PA elections in 2006 and thousands of rockets were launched into Israel, along with border attacks which led to the Second Lebanon War in the summer of 2006. Now would be a good time to discuss the actual causes of the Arab-Israeli conflict. The main reason being that the two countries claimed the same area of land. They also dehumanize each other and have strict religious beliefs, leading them to discriminate each other. This caused fighting and other countries to intervene. The fact that the UN seemed to favor the Jews angered the Muslims in many developing countries and led to the 9/11 incident in an attempt to stop US intervention or an extremist way to show that they were against it. I think that the Muslims and Jews should try to find common ground besides wanting Jerusalem, and try to use that to reach peace. The problem is that the Muslims are always saying how they want to kill the Jews. The Israelis, however, need to share Jerusalem and stop contributing to the blood feud that is fueled by retaliation between Israel and the Arab countries. I think that all religions that focus on God should have the city of Jerusalem, but Christians, Jews, and Muslims have been fighting over the city for years, and until the war ends, Jerusalem shall remain the center of many battlegrounds.